We know now that in the early years of the 20th century, this world was being watched closely by intelligences greater than man.
Did the CIA write Wind of Change by the Scorpions?
Dr. Loeb, what percentage chance do you give it that you have indeed uncovered extraterrestrial or non-human technology?
Prior to your abduction, did you believe in UFOs?
All things unexplained.
So some of that, I think, sir, will save for closed session.
Awesome.
All right. Welcome, Unexplained Ones. It's Dr. Mounts. I'm here with CJ Derringer tonight.
Hooray! Big night. It's a big deal.
Yes, it is. And before we get started, we thought you might want to know we've teamed up with Audible. You can download books for free, like Somewhere in the Skies by Ryan Sprague. You can even get a preview of his new book for free. Just visit audibletrial.com/UFO. You can even download my book that I narrate, Killer Kudzu. CJ didn't like it at first, but it did grow on her. So that's audibletrial.com.
That's a good kudzu joke right there.
UFO.
Classic.
Thanks.
Joke. Yeah, thank goodness for Audible. I was one of those people that did not want to listen to a book on tape. I was like, no, I love the feel of holding a book in my hands and turning the pages. No, forget it. I need to listen to books. If I'm going to read a book at all, I'm going to have to listen to it because I don't have time to sit down and read a book anymore.
I know it's to the point now I can't process not hearing it. Like reading it with my eyes, I just can't process it. I was at the pool for a little while today with my daughter, and I saw somebody over there reading an actual book. I said, I don't know how you're doing that.
What if it gets hot?
It's hot, I'm sweating. Kids are shooting water guns everywhere. Who needs it?
Yeah.
CJ, thanks for joining me tonight.
Oh, thank you.
It was just a little over 3 years ago, May 24th, 2020, to be exact.
Wow.
You joined me, and Smitty joined me. Smitty was late,
reluctantly.
By the way, shout out to Smitty. He's a little under the weather tonight, so he can't join us tonight. Well, just a little over 3 years ago, May 24th, 2020, that we went on the air for the first time ever, and it was called Squatch Talk, and it was for the world-famous Quaranween Con. Shout out to Wolf Cop and our friends Kilted Creature and all the folks over at Quaranween Con. We really miss those folks, and man, what a blast with Squatch Talk. Do you remember that?
Oh, very well. Yes, I remember very well. I was kind of terrified, first of all, and certainly hesitant to do anything with you. No, I'm kidding. Hesitant to do a show about Sasquatch. I knew nothing of Sasquatch Bigfoot lore at all. And you asked me to be the moderator and come with tons of questions. And I literally messaged every friend and family member that I had and said, I need questions about Bigfoot. And we got some really interesting ones. So it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, your mother, as a matter of fact, asked one of my favorite questions. Are Bigfoot affected by COVID?
Yeah, that was a good one.
One of my favorites. I had fun answering that one. And we're not sure, but we sure hope they're okay.
Well, and one thing that I didn't even know at the time was I remember asking, like, is it one Bigfoot? Is it just one creature? Are there multiple Bigfoots? Do we call them Bigfoots, big feet? Like, I really had no idea at the time, and now I feel much more well-versed in Bigfoot knowledge.
Well, you're certainly much more well-versed in general cryptid knowledge and general paranormal knowledge. Not to mention astrophysics, right? So
yes, yeah.
Here we are, over 3 years later, and a lot of stuff has happened. A lot of stuff has changed. We're not Squatch Talk anymore, but we are All Things Unexplained.
Yes.
And CJ, would you like to hear a little rundown of some of the things that have happened in the last 3 years?
Let's do it. Give me the rundown.
So since we went on there for the first time, with Squatch Talk, May 24, 2020, we have put out over 270 episodes.
It's incredible.
Of all things unexplained. We now have a new episode every Monday. We were on Fridays, but we just switched to Mondays. New episode every Monday. We have put out a new episode, CJ, for at least 52 weeks in a row.
Well, that's thanks to you. All praises to Tim. You do it all.
Well, thanks.
Produce, edit, everything. I just show up when you tell me to.
Well, I appreciate that. But this is a team effort, of course. We now have a website. Squatch Talk did not have a website, of course. We have a website now. Look at us, BigfootUFO.com. That'll get you to our website. And of course, I already did have a website. That was my author website, squatching.com. Or maybe I didn't. I don't even remember now.
Oh, I think you did.
Okay, well, if you go to squatching.com, you can see my books. You can see my Audible books. You can read my articles and different posts there. We have our own YouTube channel.
Yeah. YouTube stars. Here we are.
And that's at All Things Unexplained Podcast. And we're going to preview something from our YouTube channel tonight. We have our own Facebook page now. We have our own Instagram page. Not only that, but groundbreaking. CJ has their own social media influencer page.
Oh, I mean.
And there it is.
I'm doing my best. Yes.
At the under dash, what is that called
Underscore?
again? Underscore. I don't know where I got under dash from because my brain was telling me to say underdog. The underdog, unexplained underdog, CJ. Because I love that cartoon Underdog. You probably didn't watch it.
Oh, I maybe watched a little bit of it growing up, but not much.
Well, it was great. And Dr. Mounts, my author persona has
nobody's ever going to find me on Instagram after that. It's at the underscore unexplained underscore CJ. I don't know why Instagram does that, where you have to have those like spaces in between. But that's it. I'm doing my best. I definitely drug my feet on creating a public persona profile. And now it's out there for the world. So come on, world. Come follow me.
You had a post tonight. And by the way, we apologize. We're having a few technical difficulties tonight. So you may notice a little bit of glitching or freezing.
Well, that feels like a throwback to the early days.
Well, more than you know, because I happen to be checking out some classic Coast to Coast AM this afternoon. And in one of the episodes with Art Bell, this fella calls in from Area 51, right? Now, he's purported to be in Area 51. And dude is terrified, right? Like you can hear it in his voice. And he's telling about these extraterrestrials that we've got at Area 51 and that we don't know what their motivations are, but they have infiltrated us. Their motivations are not benign. Let's put it that way. And the dude sounds terrified. And Coast to Coast AM goes off the air. Like, boom. Shuts their systems down. Now, I want to give Art Bell some credit here. I don't know how much of that was, gamesmanship or producer effects or what, because they had some really tense situations on that show. But who knows? Who cares? Dude from Area 51, show goes down. So, if somebody knew what we were talking about tonight, it could explain the technical difficulties, because we're going to get in some alien interrogation later.
Yes, we are.
We have our own Twitter page now. We have our own Rumble page.
What's Rumble?
Well, Rumble is kind of like, did you ever watch, what was that show where everybody had an alternate self? There was, there was Faux Livia and there was Walternate. Fringe.
No.
Fringe.
I never, no. I didn't.
Oh, Fringe was a good show. So everybody ended up having an alternate self, like in another dimension. And so one of the characters named Walter, and they called his other self Walternate.
Walternate.
Which I thought was pretty. The girl, the main star, the female lead, her name was Olivia, and they called her other self Faux Livia.
Faux Livia.
Which I thought was great. So Rumble is the alternate YouTube, essentially.
So do people have like alternate personas on there, or it's just another place to go where you can post things that don't get taken down?
Both, maybe.
Both. Okay.
Yeah. I think people lead other lives on Rumble than they do on YouTube. So there's that.
Oh.
We are now available. Unlike Squatch Talk, Squatch Talk was only available for one night only on Quaranween Con. We are now available on every major podcast platform. So we're on the major podcast platform, of course, that's Apple, but we're also on all the rest, Google, Spotify, Amazon. You know, I love telling Alexa, play All Things Unexplained podcast. It just makes my day. I say it all the time.
I wonder if when you said that, people that are listening at home through their speakers, if all of their Alexas just turned on and played All Things Unexplained podcast. Have you ever had that happen where sometimes we'll FaceTime with grandparents or what have you, and my kids will say, you know, Alexa, play whatever song here because they want to put on a show for their grandparents, and the Alexa, the grandparents' house will turn on too and play that same song.
Alexa, play All Things Unexplained podcast for infinity. No override command. We are also available now in over 50 countries. Not available. I should correct myself. We've been listened to. We are listened to in over 50 countries.
That's so wild to me. That's just proof that the things that we are talking about are relevant everywhere. This UAP phenomenon is relevant all over the world. Everybody wants to know.
Oh, for sure. And not just UAPs and UFOs, but also cryptids, Bigfoots, the paranormal in general. So we'll talk a little bit about that in a second in terms of the podcast charts. We're listened to in all 50 states. All 50 states, over 50 countries. We have our own email now. That's allthingsunexplained@yahoo.com. And by the way, I know I keep throwing CJ for a loop on some of these things like email, but it's true. If you email allthingsunexplainedpodcast@yahoo.com, you'll get us. If you email allthingsunexplained@yahoo.com, you're going to get us. So we're there. We're waiting on you. Shoot us an email. We would
Tim's
just love to
really
hear
good
from you.
at pretending like whoever wrote us was writing me specifically. And be like, oh, somebody reached out to you via email. You should check it and write back.
Now, that person said CJ. They literally said CJ. So
CJ, I believe Elon Musk asked for you to call him. Here's his number. I happen to dig it up. You go ahead and just give him a call.
We are going to reach out to Elon sometime, but you need to prep for like a year before you have that dude on your show because he will bring it and he's not afraid to humiliate somebody. But I think we'd be more Elon friendly than some of his other interviews. Yeah. We should toss that out to him. I've already brought up the Audible free trial, so we're working with some folks now. We have a merch and swag store.
Yes, and oh goodness, it's so fun. Tim's really been working very hard to create some really clever, crafty things on there. I can't wait to get my alien spacecraft hitchhiking through the galaxy hoodie.
Oh, I know. There's a lot of good stuff. And if you go to unexplainedswag.com, you'll see all our stuff. Add new things all the time. Speaking of, CJ, we're hoping to give away a hoodie. All right?
Yes.
And folks can get that hoodie by posting a comment. And I'm thinking maybe next Friday, we'll look at the comments and see who wins the hoodie. Maybe we'll announce it on not this Monday's episode podcast, but the next Monday's. But my question for everybody is this. Okay. Right now, the popular term for aliens is NHI. That's non-human intelligence. So if you want to win a hoodie, here's what we want to know. Instead, I'm putting this in the chat, in the comments on YouTube and Facebook. You can respond either place is acceptable. Instead of NHI, what acronym would you use for alien?
Oh, that's fun.
And what does it stand for?
Okay.
So I hear some people are getting tired of NHI because technically non-human intelligence can cover a lot of territory. It can cover plants, for example. Dolphins.
They're pretty intelligent.
Oh, for sure. So, I mean, it could be dolphins piloting the UFOs. It could be triffids. I remember in the classic sci-fi movie Day of the Triffids.
Triffids?
Yeah, they were kind of plants, if I remember correctly. Intelligent plants. Think Venus flytraps
Oh,
from the future.
okay.
That sort of thing. Not a pleasant experience. So you can get your own All Things Unexplained merchandise at unexplainedswag.com.
Sounds a little bit like Killer Kudzu, like that book you narrated so well.
Oh yeah, so in Killer Kudzu, they took kudzu and crossed it with Venus flytraps and some other not such good ideas. So the thing about it is, in Killer Kudzu, they thought so hard about how to do it, they never stopped to think if they should.
Oh, that's a good one.
Stolen from Jurassic Park, sorry. Shout out to Jurassic Park. So we also have Venmo now. You know, it takes a lot to make a podcast happen. We want to give a shout out to friend of the show, Ryan Sprague, host of Somewhere in the Skies podcast, and the alien dude on Ancient Aliens, because for whatever reason, YouTube just demonetized Ryan Sprague.
I guess they... Never mind.
I think it's because on our show, he broke an exclusive, you know, from Squatch Talk to Breaking Alien exclusives. And he broke an exclusive that folks from Dead Horse, Alaska revealed there is wreckage out here. And Ryan Sprague and friends, you know, we're still waiting for our invitation, are going to Dead Horse. And they're going to collect or look for whatever it is. And by the way, I spoke to my friend of the show, adventurer Dane Beck, and you know, he used to work commercial fishing charters.
Fishing, right?
Yep, up down the West Coast, or they would launch out of there. And he's been to Dead Horse, Alaska.
Really?
And it's actually not that far out of Anchorage, which people think of Anchorage as, you know, kind of a hub. But he's like, still, Tim, you get outside of Anchorage, you're talking pretty barren landscape out there. Nothingsville. Barren landscape, harsh environment, right? So shout out to Ryan Sprague. They've demonetized him, but it takes a lot to make a podcast happen, you know, and he said it too. He said it real good. You know, you've got to have a host for the podcast. You've got to have all this software. You got to have all this hardware. And it just takes a lot.
And time. My goodness, the time that you put into it.
It takes really so much. Incredible. It's become all consuming.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, all consuming. I had a headache this past week. I basically didn't leave the front of the screen for like the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
The podcast stuff has been booming so much, and I'm thankful for that. But one way, you have several ways you can help us out. One way is the merch store, unexplainedswag.com. That'll actually take you to Amazon, and so everybody now can shop on Amazon real easy. But you can also help us out on Venmo at Bigfoot UFO. That's Venmo, Bigfoot UFO. That's a real easy way. Or PayPal. We have PayPal. We're ATU Podcast. We're also on Cameo. So if you want CJ to wish you a happy birthday.
I guess I've got to make that video still.
Yeah, you do.
It's a good reminder.
I think it's like $3. $3 and CJ.
$3. That's cheap.
Can wish you a happy birthday. It is cheap. You tell me we're going to get a cheaper birthday gift than that.
I'll even sing it. I'll sing it.
There you go.
Yeah.
You can try one now.
Happy birthday to you. That's all you're going to get for now.
No problem. And by the way, you do not have to memorize all these links, because since Squatch Talk, All Things Unexplained is in a lot of places. And one way you can easily find all those places is go to our Linktree, linktree.com/ATU podcast is scrolling across the bottom of the screen now. So if you're watching on YouTube, Twitter, or Facebook, you'll see it there. And if you're listening on one of the major podcast platforms, it's linktree.com/ATU podcast. ATU for All Things Unexplained. ATU podcast. There you'll find all of our links, or as I like to say on the post, you'll probably find all our links, because it's always a work in progress. Now, CJ, earlier I mentioned since Squatch Talk over 3 years ago, we have hit every major podcast platform. Over 50 countries we're listened to. We're listened to in all 50 states. And not only that, but we just, for the first time this past week, charted in 2 countries that we've never been on the podcast charts before. So on the Apple Podcast Science charts this past week, we're shooting up them in Great Britain and Sweden. So shout out to you, England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland, and Sweden. We appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All great places.
So also, it's been a while back. It might have been 2 years ago, but CJ made a comment on the air one night. And she basically said something like, because we were talking about the podcast charts, and oh man, it'd be great if we could get on the charts. And we just had to relate it to somebody that we knew, maybe from our childhood or whatever. And CJ said, oh, Bill Nye, Science Guy, we're coming for you.
Well, no, so he was like number 2 on the chart. That's why I said that.
Right,
He was
there you
number
go.
2. Yeah, and I was like, Bill Nye, we're coming for you.
Well, guess what, CJ? This past week on the Apple Podcast Science charts, United States of America. God bless the USA, America. We, All Things Unexplained, came within 1 spot of Bill Nye.
Oh, man.
We did it.
Gotcha, sucker.
And I've been calling him out too, because he's on Twitter, he's on Instagram, he's on Facebook, he's on YouTube. I've been calling him out, saying, "Hey, look, one behind now, 1 behind. We're not Squatch Talk anymore. You can acknowledge us. We're just 1 behind you."
I really do like that name, Squatch Talk, though. That was clever.
Oh yeah, I liked it. Maybe we'll have some Squatch Talk special editions,
Yeah.
I think that would be a good idea. And wow, another thing is, so talk about synchronicity, and I brought this up on our social medias. I loved finding Bigfoot. People know me. I write Bigfoot-themed children's books. You can check them out at squatching.com. I love Bigfoot. I really enjoyed the television show Finding Bigfoot, right? Well, it just so happened that this past week, we were also within 1 slot of Bigfoot and Beyond with Cliff and Bobo. Now, here's where some more synchronicity comes in. And by the way, Cliff and Bobo were 2 of the stars of Finding Bigfoot, right?
Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah. And it just so happens in October, we welcome Matt Pruitt, who produces and edits the Bigfoot and Beyond podcast with Cliff Bobo. We welcome Matt Pruitt to All Things Unexplained, and he's the author of Phenomenal Sasquatch. And he's going to be joining us.
So I guess we shouldn't be too braggadocious about being within 1 spot of them.
It got his attention.
We'll be kind.
I'll put it that way. It got his attention. So Matt Pruitt coming on with us, plus a lot of other folks coming on with us here real soon. I think I should just go over some of them now. Some of the ones that we can talk about here. So also joining us real soon, August 23rd, psychic investigator and paranormal researcher John Russell. I'm looking forward to that one. I love some paranormal true crime.
Yeah, I like that.
We've done one previous guest on with paranormal crime, kind of the Fox Mulder of the Asheville, North Carolina Police Department.
Oh, yes.
Remember that?
Oh, yeah, he was great. Was it paranormal crime, though? I don't remember being paranormal. I thought it was just true crime.
It was both. But he got some spooky calls because you may have pushed this or suppressed it. But he told us a story about how he would get calls all the time to this particular hotel, right? And it would be from folks reporting somebody jumping off to their death. But the police basically knew when they got there would be no body because folks would see this happen, right? And they would call 911.
You're right. I did push that back into the depths of my brain. That's not who I was thinking about. Actually, I was thinking about the author who used to be a detective.
Yes,
came
same
on our
person.
show. No, different person.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. the guy that you were thinking about was an entirely different show. And I'm trying to find,
Because we also had another guy from Asheville that came on and talked to us about Helen's Bridge.
No, that's the same guy.
No, different guy. We'll cover that in a second. But psychic investigator, paranormal researcher John Russell joins us this month. Also at the end of the month, I'm super excited to welcome artist, singer Suzanne McDermott. Now get this, her two biggest hits could not be more timely. They are the Roswell incident and the Three Dreams of J. Robert Oppenheimer.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, two of the biggest things in the news right now, Roswell and Oppenheimer.
Yes.
Which is Oppenheimer #1 at the box office. Not going to invite a Barbie person onto the show, though. Sorry. But I said to myself, whoever wrote 2 songs about Roswell and Oppenheimer, we need to talk to this person. So I can't wait to find out what's going on with Suzanne McDermott. Also
the
coming up.
person I was thinking of, sorry, real quick, was Detective Scott Lunsford.
Yes.
Remember, he had all of those unsolved, unusual murder cases.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, but the first time I was talking to him, I was telling him I had made the state tennis tournament. It was in Asheville.
Right.
I told him about the house we were staying in. It's like, oh yeah, I found a hand in that area one time.
Mm-hmm.
just a hand.
Just
I don't think they ever connected it to anybody. Get it? Anybody? Never connected. So joining us in November is the Michael Jordan of birding, Noah Stricker.
Yes. We've got to get Noah on here.
Yeah, Noah's been on some really amazing media, and we can't wait to have him. And like I said, in October, Matt Pruitt joins us, author of the phenomenal Sasquatch book and producer and editor of Bigfoot and Beyond with Cliff and Bobo, the Bigfoot and Beyond podcast. We want to give a shout out real quick to a friend of the show, Mr. Tracy. By the way, he sent CJ and I a couple of shirts here.
Oh, yes.
I don't know if you can see them, but I'm going to hold up a special sample he sent us of Smoky Mountain Squatch Shine. We're hoping to do a little commercial about this soon in our tasting. 90 proof, though.
Yikes.
Not sure how many tastes we're going to be getting in,
I don't know how many you need, really.
I don't know either, but Mr. Tracy, thank you.
What's great about it, right?
So much for the Smoky Mountain Squatch Shine.
And what a cool logo he has. I love that logo so much. I really like this shirt a ton, actually.
Yeah, me too.
Fits well.
It's great. So thanks, Mr. Tracy. And speaking of our previous guest, wow, we couldn't even fathom when we were Squatch Talk having a guest on the show, but let's just mention just a few of the folks that we've had on. Gary Arnold, EVP pioneer, that's electronic voice phenomenon. Remember, Gary Arnold had the shocking revelation that some of the voices he heard were actually aliens, and that they were not all benevolent either, by the way.
He was talking to us from his university where he teaches.
Yes.
On his lunch break.
Wild stuff. Friend of the show, Sean Alston of the Sean Alston Band. And
that was fun.
Yeah, he was great. Remember, he led us in one of my favorite skits ever. What was it? What's the
ABC?
The North Pole song?
Yeah.
The North Pole song. What starts with A at the North Pole? What starts with B at the North Pole? We had Eric Bard from Skinwalker Ranch on the show. Do you think
Eric Bard is the best?
He really is amazing. Could you imagine us having somebody like Eric Bard on when we first started with Squatch Talk? No, it's true.
No way.
Sorry, Quaranween Con. We love Quaranween Con, but we definitely didn't imagine going to somebody like Eric Bard, and from Eric Bard to Paul Beebon.
Yeah, Emmy award-winning journalist.
Talk about some pressure interviewing him.
He was fantastic.
Y'all didn't see this, but before we came on air, he interviewed us.
He did. Yeah.
Like, it was wild. But he's, of course, the star of the new.
Are you writers, producers? What do you do? Yeah. We were like, we are all of the above, Paul.
Let's talk about you. Let's talk about you, Paul. And, of course, he's the star now of Beyond Skinwalker Ranch. Dane Beck, adventureman, adventure, outdoorsman, man of many tales.
Man, Dane had some of the best stories.
Including the fact that his mom got hit on by John Lithgow from Harry and the Hendersons. I think it was John Lithgow. You don't remember that one?
I remember him saying something along those lines.
Yeah. He's like, yeah, we were talking about Harry and Henderson. Like, yeah, let me tell y'all Harry and the Henderson story. John Lithgow, the dad, tried to pick my mom up. I don't mean like physically, like a Bigfoot. I mean like, see what kind of places I got around this Montana one-horse town. Friend of the show, Arthur Blake Best. He's also a musician.
Good guy.
And a cryptozoologist. Great guy. Such a good, talented speaker, talented writer, talented musician. He also wrote the theme song, If We Ever Do, the Smoky Mountain Squatch Talk commercial.
Our song, yes. You mean when we do the commercial?
Remember the Mr. Billy, our very first All Things Unexplained.
I love Mr. Billy. I wish that I could call him. I don't think that he like listens to podcasts, so he probably never even heard his own story shared in podcast form.
We can call him, and we should call him. And by the way, let's see, listener Trent Leonard's chiming in. Can we specify what the message is and to whom?
He's talking about our cameo message.
Yes, indeed, you can, but we have
My answer is no, you cannot, Trent. Not you.
But we do reserve the right to refuse. Sorry. Better behave. Or the price goes up astronomically. I will say there is a sliding scale.
Yeah, I mean, we can all be bought, let's be honest.
On the request. But you do request. You can get, and we'll tell Smitty you were asking about him. Smitty can sing Trent happy birthday. So, Mr. Billy, though, he was so amazing. He was the first guest of All Things Unexplained.
He kind of changed my life.
Yeah, he did. Mine too, to be honest. How did he change yours, CJ?
I think that when I started this show, I was a total skeptic in everything, all of it. UFOs, Bigfoots, ghosts, what have you. And so we had this guy, Mr. Billy from Mississippi, and I thought, oh boy, here we go. We're going to get this local yokel. And man, he was great. He was philosophical, honest, real, great conversation, great storyteller. Felt like I was talking to my grandfather, and I just believed every single word he said. It was really incredible. So it was the first time for me that I thought, okay, maybe there's something to all of these UFO stories that I've heard before. And then that, from there launched us into the next realm, because then I had all kinds of people reaching out to me, friends of mine that were asking, do you really do a podcast on UFOs? I was a little nervous to say yes, but I've confidently said yes now. And all those people shared with me their own UFO stories. So it became a very real thing for me after Mr. Billy.
Well, you know what Mr. Billy changed for me is he really brought home the fact that the UFO phenomenon and the paranormal phenomenon in general is truly a rabbit hole.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And there, shout out to fellow podcaster, the UFO Rabbit Hole, who we had some synchronicity with in our episode with Ryan Stray. But it really, and people specifically call the UFO phenomenon a rabbit hole. And it is because by the time we went on the air with Mr. Billy, who witnessed firsthand one of the greatest UFO incidents of all time, which in light of recent events, I think all these situations should be re-examined. And by the time we went on the air, I had volumes of research that would never end.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and this was just one specific case and one specific person, and it just never ended. And that changed my life too, and I'll never forget it. And it continues to be the case. As a matter of fact, things we look into now still reconnect back to Mr. Billy. It's just amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was the first time that I had ever heard some names like Dr. Hynek. I had never heard that name before. And now I hear it all the time.
Yes. And of course, it was with talking to Mr. Billy, we had several unexpected things happen. And one of them, which was not in the news in any way whatsoever about this incident, Mr. Billy had a phone call from J. Allen Hynek, which caught us really by surprise. And Dr. Hynek revealed some very intriguing information to Mr. Billy about how these crafts navigate around the globe and how they move themselves, how they harness the power of gravity, for example. And of course, this is really big in the news now.
Right.
How these craft are moving, how are they capable of doing the things that they're doing. CJ, we were so honored to have Cheryl and Orville Murphy from Board Camp Crystal Mine with us more than once.
And talk about a crazy way that all came to be. Maybe the only time I've ever been on the internet.
Yes. Only time you've ever been on the internet.
So there had been that flight where the pilot was recorded saying that they had seen something go very close to their plane. And I started doing some digging about that particular flight. And in a chat comment section, Cheryl had messaged on a website, I have pictures of something out of my airplane if you would like them. And I wrote her, we've got a podcast. We would love to see them. She sent them to us. And we had to talk to her about what she saw, because that one really shook me for so many reasons. Number one, what you see out of the window is clearly very close to her plane. We all determined it looked like missiles of some sort, which is terrifying when you think about the fact that she was on a commercial flight. Number two, nobody cared. We were shocked by this revelation, posting it all over the place, trying to get anyone's attention about what happened. No one cared. It was like, who are the Kardashians dating now? That's all anybody cared about. That was really scary for me, that nobody cared about these missiles right outside of this woman's window on a plane.
Oh, yeah. And we reached out to several experts, and the best they could come up with was, this could be a hypersonic missile.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and how scary can you get? But like you said, nobody cared. But Orville and Cheryl were a great example of the rabbit hole I was talking about earlier, because they reached out to us about, their pictures of a potential hypersonic missile or an unknown situation, anomalous situation outside the airplane that they managed to capture. It emerged soon after that. Orville and Cheryl Murphy, they operate Board Camp Crystal Mine in Arkansas. They've been on one of the best episodes of Expedition Unknown with Josh Gates ever, where Josh Gates was investigating a UFO encounter at Board Camp Crystal Mine, one that literally left physical evidence.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, they have Bigfoots at Board Camp Crystal Mine. They have Bigfoot encounters. By the way, they have crystals, of course, and they have crystals that teleport. They have teleportation situations at Board Camp Crystal Mine, which, by the way, is in the news.
Right. And if you were to hear all of those things that you just said, right, and if you had been me 3 years ago, you might go, okay, sure they do. But then to meet Cheryl and Orville Murphy, you can't not believe them. They are so honest and pure-hearted and kind. And again, this philosophical thing, they just clearly see the universe for more than what most people see it for.
No, that's right. They were amazing, and they still have an open invitation for
I know, we got to go.
Us to go out there.
3-year anniversary retreat.
Let's do
for
it.
All Things Unexplained.
We were pleased to welcome former CIA operative Andrew Bustamante to All Things Unexplained, current star also of Beyond Skinwalker Ranch. Boy, he was great.
He was fun. What a fun guy.
He still would not reveal if the CIA actually wrote Wind of Change by Scorpions.
He did not answer your question.
Lucy Castle, Palladian Starseed, Tic Tac UFO witness.
Mm-hmm. Man, Palladian Starseeds, they are where it's at.
The thing is, her episode was one of the wildest episodes we've ever done, because we got blew up. Like, it shut the internet down. How many people were on that show with us from all across the UK? He's talking about the UK and across America too. But Palladian Starseeds, and I'd actually like to revisit that, because she was a Tic Tac UFO witness, And I tell you what, there's breaking news about Tic Tac UFOs every day, almost on the daily now. And it just gives new validation to civilian accounts like Lucy Castle. Friend of the show, Becky Cook, author of the Bigfoot Lives in Idaho
Yeah,
series.
she's so great.
So amazing. Also one of the tallest women with some of the biggest feet
in
the world.
In the world.
She's incredible. We had the impressive Cheryl Costone with us, author of the UFO Sightings Desk Reference.
Impressive indeed.
Yes.
She has put together a whole range of information on UFO sightings.
Volumes and volumes of data. And I think it's gotten Cheryl some unwanted attention, actually, because folks like Arrow and others, they've kind of taken notice of that, right? Like they've not been too keen on releasing data, on releasing specifics. We had who we call Tanya Doe on the show.
Yes.
Witness of a giant UFO over Queens, New York.
Friend of mine.
And by the way, it sounds real crazy, right? That you saw a giant UFO over Queens, New York, until a former Navy pilot testifies before the House Oversight Committee about a giant rectangular prism UFO the size of a
football field.
Football field. That's right.
Yeah.
Now, I promise you, I feel like if you saw a craft the size of a football field over Queens and you were close enough to it, you would say this is a giant UFO.
Yeah. So what was really interesting about the Tanya episode in terms of our history as a show is that we had two very different takes on how to approach her story. If you recall, after we were done interviewing her, I called you and I was like, what did you just do? Like, why were you so intense with her? Your questioning was just so intense. And she got all nervous and was pushing back. And I'm like, she was wanting to tell her story and you scared her. And so you took yourself out of the entire interview that you posted later on. But what I have found interesting is that so many people have told us how easy we are to talk to. And they tell us so much and they open up to us and they enjoy coming on our show. And I think that was a crossroads in our podcast where we were sort of deciding who we were going to be, how we were going to do this. And I know you wanted to ask those really hard-hitting questions, but she instantly shut down when you did. And she felt a little bit more comfortable with some of the softer, if you lean in like you believe the person. I remember that being a big turning point in our podcast. I'm not sure you were very happy with me, but you listened. So
it needed to be said. But the thing is, I'll admit, like this is an intelligent, professional person who did not want to necessarily tell their story. They were nervous about it, and it just it carries a lot of weight. And not only that, but she's not the only one that saw it.
Right.
She was with her friend that saw it, and here we are. We have the best witnesses you could ever hope for describing giant UFOs over military bases. Suddenly a giant UFO over Queens doesn't sound like such a stretch. We also had, were these next two, and I'm going to work through these a little quicker, were these next two quite the bundle of energy to handle. Jonathan Fink, author of Baseball Gods Are Real, and Connor Flynn, cryptozoology researcher, author, budding actor. I mean, he doesn't know. Connor Flynn, Jonathan Fink.
Yeah.
I almost gave him a shout out to join us tonight, but we did not have 8 hours on our hand. They can really get after it.
Good people. But yeah, I mean, whatever they are drinking to get their energy. Though I'm not sure Connor was drinking when he was on our show. I think he was doing something else.
I think I know what they might have been drinking. A little bit of some Smoky Mountain Squash time. But anyway, I'm probably not going to get to all our former guests, but I'm going to run through some more here. Chrissy Heron, author of Headaches and Hauntings. Remember her? Oh, I did that one by myself.
Yeah, you did that one by yourself. I was sad to miss that one.
And what was so great was when she got into this story about meeting, what's his name? Gerard Butler. She was like, I'm not saying nothing happened, but something might have happened. I thought that was pretty funny. I did another one by myself, the International Cryptozoology Museum of Portland, Maine.
Oh yeah.
that was pretty fun. Speaking of CJ, we still have to go to the Bigfoot Museum in
right here
North
in our
Carolina,
local backyard.
up the road. Dr. Kwani Lapsaritas, which, by the way, we still have to push his episodes out on podcast platforms. Psychic Interdimensional Bigfoot expert. Two of our favorites just happen to be astrophysicist Dr. Charles Liu and Avi Loeb.
Yes. Two very different people.
Very different. It's
But
interesting,
boy.
and I'm glad you said that. It's interesting. One, they're basically polar opposites, right?
Mm-hmm.
But two of the most brilliant minds on the planet.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one is on the hunt for extraterrestrials.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Liu is just, I feel like he's a friend. He's so kind. Just a kind. We've had a lot of fun with Dr. Liu on this show.
We have.
He is a good sport. That's for sure.
Him and his whole team from the Looniverse podcast.
Yes, his whole team. That's right. They all came on. That was great. And then Dr. Loeb. I mean, what a gift to have him on our show.
And he's been on multiple times. 3 times, yes.
3 times.
Can you believe that?
From
Squatch Talk to Avi Loeb on with us 3 times.
Yeah.
Go figure. Well, you mentioned Detective Scott Lunsford, Strange and Unusual Cases.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Medlin, Pico Balloon expert. Yeah. Our dear friend and current volleyball enemy, Mr. J, our military consultant. Christopher O'Brien, cattle mutilation expert.
Oh, yeah.
One of your favorites, CJ, Oracle, Orion, Palladian, also Palladian Starseed, alien abductee, and one of a rare breed, alien. If you get abducted, you're an abductee. If you get surgery done on you, what are you? Patient?
I guess so.
Alien surgical patient.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this was another turning point in our show because I did not want to do this interview.
I remember that.
At all. I pretty much begged you not to do this interview. I said, if we have an alien abductee who's had a spinal cord replacement surgery from aliens on our show, we're going to lose all validation. And you said, no, we've got to. It's going to be great. It's going to be such a good show. Even if it's so way out there, it's going to be a great show. Oracle Araya was phenomenal. She is classy, number one. She's beautiful. She radiates positive energy. I believed every word she said. So that was a big turning point for me because you talked me into that one. And from there, I think I've been a little bit more receptive to all of your ideas.
Good. You learned a valuable lesson that day.
Yeah.
And that was that. Listen to me. No, that was, folks have stories to tell, and sometimes they just need a platform for telling them. And it's not up to us to judge or say whether this really happened or whether they're telling the truth or what people should make of it. But it is up to us. I think now we've come to this place to realize to provide a platform for those stories to be told.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? If Ryan Fravor and Ryan Graves, or David Fravor and Ryan Graves, and the UFO whistleblower can have a platform before Congress, and folks can have a platform to tell their stories too. Regular civilians.
So important.
Robert Bob Salas. He's been a name in ufology for a very long time.
Yes.
One of the most famous names in all of ufology, and we've had him on with us to tell his story. And boy, he had some shocking revelations too. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting. The one we were just talking about, I said, she's one of a rare breed of alien surgical patients. Turns out so is Robert Bob Salas. Yeah,
that was a wild story. And that we stumbled upon that information. I mean, he was going through, oh yes, in book number 2, I have stories that I collected about other people's UFO encounters and my own alien abduction and other people's alien abductions. Blah, 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 blah. But what did you just say? Can we go back to that?
Yes.
And that story was wild and scary. I lost a lot of sleep actually after that interview.
It was scary. He also revealed his belief in an entity, a group, an organization that has gained much more validation since the UFO hearing last week, July 26th. Okay, he mentioned this shadowy organization that he refers to as the UFO cabal.
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, if you watch the UFO hearing, July 26th, the historic event before the House Oversight Committee, David Grush, Fravor, and Ryan Graves, then you came with this takeaway that, you know what, there might actually be a freaking UFO cabal. Because that's one of the only ways to explain it.
Right.
If they are all telling the truth, and if everything they said happened and happened in the way that they believe it to be the case, then you don't really get there without the presence of something like a UFO cabal.
Yeah.
So pretty shocking stuff there. We had Chrissy Smith on.
Yeah.
Personal friend
She
of
had some
mine.
really, really interesting ideas too on what's going on.
Oh, yes. And she may be coming back on with us with the Great Divine Sovereign Messenger. But she's from Patriot Muscle Health. That's right. And one of our favorites too, Donna Campbell Smith, award-winning author of the Bigfoot fiction novel My Neighbors from the Woods. And that book was terrific. I loved it. We had the wonderful director of the Travis Walton story, the true story, Travis Walton, Jennifer Stein, and Travis Walton himself on with us.
Yes.
We had the Norwegian Irish pop band, Todd and Karen.
That was fun.
It was fun. They taught me a lot. Like I had no idea, for example, that the guy that sang, I Can Feel It Coming in the Night. Oh, what's his name? Phil Collins. Like Phil Collins is much different overseas than what we know in America, right?
Oh, I don't remember that.
But they were great. We only had Todd on though.
Right,
Karen couldn't make it. We did an episode with our friends from the Twisted Teachers podcast.
Gosh. That one gave me the sweats.
That one got pretty R-rated and pretty wild.
Holy smokes.
And of course we had
really
the superintendent of Skinwalker Ranch with us, Thomas Winterton.
Yeah, Thomas is great.
Thomas is so great. And so I think that a lot of stuff has happened and we've kind of come a long way these last 3 years, CJ.
Yes, we have. I feel like we missed some people on this list, though.
Yeah, we probably did. Anybody that you can think of off the top of your head?
Well, certainly the person that told us the ghost stories out of Asheville wasn't listed.
Oh, yeah, he's not on there. Apologies to him. He may, and I know there are others, but that just goes to show you we're over 200 episodes now. There's been a lot of people. We've covered a lot of topics.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the topics we wanted to cover tonight, CJ, was last week was one of the most historic events, potentially in American history, but certainly in ufology. And that was the historic UFO hearing in front of the House Oversight Committee. We had David Grush, a UFO whistleblower. We had Ryan Graves, former pilot, and David Fravor, former pilot. He had the Tic Tac UFO encounter. Graves had the UFO encounters off the East Coast. Grush is the whistleblower that makes claims of proof of NHI's, non-human intelligences.
Right.
And that we have recovered craft. We're reverse engineering them. One thing I didn't know, because I live streamed that with DJ from our friends at Calling All Beings. Shout out to them.
There you go. And more people we did shows with.
Yes. And CJ, what were your impressions of the UFO hearing?
Well, I felt like it was unprecedented. I felt like we had politicians from both sides all wanting the same thing, which is wonderful. I felt like those politicians were very verbal about their belief that something is happening and that we all deserve to know more. I thought that the stories that were shared were really crucial in moving things forward for more research and learning what's happening out there. I thought David Grush was very well spoken. Everything that he shared was very powerful, though there was a lot he couldn't share. And he's brave for coming out and doing that. I didn't think that I learned anything new from Ryan Graves or David Fravor. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Like I had heard those stories before, so there was nothing new there. Though I did like that Ryan Graves, I believe it was pushing for having more people report, having safer ways for pilots to report. In fact, it sounded like he had started his own nonprofit for people to be able to do that. So yeah, I thought that it was all positive, though it did feel a little bit like all of the politicians were kind of talking for no reason, like making all of their statements. I didn't know that those were all necessary. It went on for a really long time.
Well, it did go on for a long time, and it's a hot topic now, and we're going to talk about that right now. It's such a hot topic. I've got 3 things. We're not going to rehash the UFO hearing, CJ, but we're going to get into 3 quick things here that have evolved out of the UFO hearing. And I'm going to try to share the screen here. And one is, this is headline The Hill from yesterday, August 4th. This is by Merrick von Rennenkamp. Merrick von Rennenkamp. I'm going to try to pull it up here for those watching on video. And here it is. Headline on The Hill: a monumental UFO scandal is looming. Let's see if I can get rid of that. So what Merritt points out basically is that we have 2 potential things going on here. One, either the U.S. government has mounted an extraordinary, decades-long cover-up of UFO retrieval and reverse engineering activities, and this would be where the UFO cabal comes in, right?
Right.
Like, you essentially can't go that route without having the existence of some sort of UFO cabal there. So that's one. Or 2, elements of the defense and intelligence establishment are engaging in a staggeringly brazen psychological disinformation campaign. I want to read that again. This is headline The Hill: a monumental UFO scandal is looming. So author Merrick von Rennenkamp, this came out yesterday, said one of 2 things is happening, and that we're heading toward a real showdown here, a real controversy. Either the U.S. government has mounted an extraordinary, decades-long cover-up of UFO retrieval and reverse engineering activities. I think this is the case if everything they're saying is true and you just believe that this is aliens, right? Or 2, elements of the defense and intelligence establishment are engaging in a staggeringly brazen psyops campaign or psychological disinformation campaign. And that's basically, if you take the point of view that, maybe what they're saying is not necessarily true. Or maybe they're misinformed.
Right. We've had this sort of question ourselves with Avi Loeb, right? Like, is he part of some sort of disinformation campaign? Like, he has made himself out to be the expert in extraterrestrial search and technology. But every time we've asked him about something that's come out, Ryan Graves or what have you, he's always said, nope, I can debunk that. Not true. Not a UFO, not a UAP. Like,
that's right. Well, even on our show, we were kind of taken aback because we thought, okay, we asked Avi Loeb about David Grush, the UFO whistleblower.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, this was a natural extension of Avi Loeb's work. Avi Loeb believes he may have recovered evidence of extraterrestrial technology off the coast of Papua New Guinea. Papua New Guinea. All right. So to me, this is a natural extension, and it's fine. I understand the scientific method, but I think it's fine. Every good paper, one of the parts at the end is extensions, right? And it's fine to hypothesize about the extension of your work. In other words, the future ramifications or what's next. What does this mean? And if he did find proof of extraterrestrial technology, which, by the way, another thing that shocked me is he revealed that our military precisely knew where this thing had landed.
Mm-hmm.
But if he has found extraterrestrial technology, okay, the next natural question is, what brought it here? What piloted it or what controlled it? If it's extraterrestrial, obviously that suggests, as David Grush would say, a non-human intelligence, an NHI. Well, why does he use the term NHI? Because he says we have no actual evidence that they are from a different part of space or a different part of Earth, like under the sea. They could very well be from a different dimension, for example.
You almost got me to bust out in some Little Mermaid there when you said under the sea.
Everything's something or another under the sea. Anyway, so Avi Loeb's like, well, first of all, David Grush is full of crap. He's misinformed. He doesn't understand the physics. There's no proof of other dimensions. I'm like, whoa. Okay.
Yeah, that took me back too.
Very interesting. So, Avi Loeb, is he a double agent for the UFO cabal? I mean, I don't know, but he was pretty hard hitting with David Grush, but yet he's searching for his own evidence of extraterrestrial technology and proof of UFOs, proof of NHIs. And by the way, we're trying to give away a hoodie. If you have a better term than NHI, non-human intelligence, for what aliens should be called, just let us know in the comments on Facebook or YouTube. So, CJ, I mean, I actually think that the real story here could be a lot more nuanced than even what this author laid out in The Hill. I think it's not as clear cut.
I think it's definitely messy, whatever it is. And it's just so frustrating because I don't have any idea. I feel like every time I learn something new or we feel like we get close to an answer, we get thrown off course. Something new comes out. I just don't know which way it's going.
Well, so I want to say this before I go into our second article. We're going to cover 3 news things that have evolved, in my opinion, since the UFO hearing. But the UFO hearing has not left the news. Every day on Twitter, and by the way, shout out to Twitter, better known as X now, Twitter Spaces, X Spaces. There's some fantastic folks doing what are basically chat rooms there. They're called Twitter Spaces. And you can just talk the night away or your drive away in your car about UFOs and UAPs and lots of topics like that. All right. So shout out to the UFO X community, the UFO Twitter community, the disclosure community on Twitter, on X. It's pretty vibrant. But I could find 100 different news things about UFOs since the UFO hearing every day, right? It's not left the news. It's everywhere. It's on every news outlet. This next story has gotten almost no attention whatsoever. But I think it could tie back in. And matter of fact, I had such a hard time finding this.
Show me the story. Show me the story.
This was published August 4th now.
This lead up is killing me.
Well, I had such a hard time finding this story since I told you and Smitty about it that I had to pull back up our old text messages and get that link because it's not out there.
From a day ago?
And I'm going to, well, this particular article was published a day ago, but the actual story I think is only from a few days ago. And so I'm going to share that
hard
screen.
Digging back through those text messages a whole 48 hours.
Yeah, I know. But it's weird though, right, that I couldn't just Google it.
No, that is true.
And pull it up anymore. So here it is. I'm going to pull it up on the screen share. 2 U.S. sailors hit with charges tied to national security in China.
This is when I tell you that I never actually read the article.
There you go.
That you sent me.
And you might be asking yourself, what does this have to do with UFO here? And what does this have to do with UFOs? In separate cases, sailors accused of passing national security information to Chinese intelligence officers. That one. So
sorry.
I just couldn't help but think.
Serious. This is serious stuff.
Rick James called for security, and the one came in, he had crooked eyes.
You do a good Rick James security.
Stop right there, crooked eyes. You take one more step, I'm throwing Rick James out the window. Anyway, okay. 2 U.S. sailors hit with charges tied to national security and China. This is not a very long article, but basically the sum total of it is we had 2 sailors transmit or attempted to transmit more than 50 manuals and other documents containing technical and mechanical data about naval amphibious assault ships. Several of these materials were allegedly marked with export control warnings and contained details about the power structure, weapon systems, and damage control aboard these ships.
No good.
One of the shocking things Ryan Graves said at the UFO hearing was that it messed with their technology.
Right.
Shut their systems down. The lady that cuts my hair sometimes, she revealed to us, her brother's in the Navy. He's an engineer on one of these ships, and they have UFO encounters. And when they do, it shuts their systems down. It's his job to get them back online, and they're terrified they're being hacked. Congressman Matt Gaetz came on the UFO hearing and said that he alone has seen evidence from a pilot who had an encounter. Multiple pilots had this encounter, and it shut their systems down. What normally would have been recorded and automatically captured on video and camera and uploaded to the cloud did not happen because it shut their system down. And this pilot managed to take one manual photo of what Matt Gaetz could not describe in any way whatsoever as being human. Okay. This is where the nuance comes in. It's not so simple, in my opinion, because we do not know how many factions are involved in this UFO phenomenon that's emerging right now. Right. Nor do we know their motivations. But one thing that we're not paying attention to, but is clearly happening, is we have been infiltrated on many levels by China. And right now, we're trying to find out and reveal. This is the disclosure movement, and this is why I think we have to be careful. We're trying to reveal what is potentially the greatest technology and weaponry known to man.
Right.
The movie Oppenheimer is out right now. This notion of mutually assured destruction, simultaneous atomic destruction, this has been on this show before. Oppenheimer, this situation arose, right, where they had to go to our government and say, look, if one of these other governments is to perfect this technology before we do, we're doomed.
Yeah.
The world is going to change, and not for the better. Okay, if we believe, we just don't know exactly what's happening here. If there really is extraterrestrial technology, it's just like the day after Roswell laid out that if you believe Roswell really happened, CJ, then what really happened from a military perspective was we just discovered the most shockingly powerful military potential ever in the history of humankind. Now tell me, would our enemies not be interested in that?
I think they would be.
Right now we have laws we're trying to push through by Adam Schiff and others, trying to force private companies to reveal technological secrets. to reveal if they have or are reverse engineering UFOs. You know, whether they are UFOs or not, do you believe that China would love to have our technological secrets? Absolutely. And by the way, what better way to get them than for us just to get it for them?
Yeah, just
Here we
put it
go.
on out there.
But we see here, to me, this ties into what I'm saying.
Well,
that
maybe
it's
the
much
cabal
more
is necessary then. Sorry.
It could be, yes. It absolutely could be. You know, I've heard it said before. This was way before social media, though, and cell phones and such. It was kind of a known thing that in order for something like a town to function correctly, you had to have just a few people in charge who sometimes made things happen, maybe not by the book.
Right.
It was the only real way. I can't remember what this phenomenon was called, but you couldn't listen to everybody in the town and get all their opinions and all their input and expect to have a fully functioning, efficient town happening. So 2 U.S. sailors hit with charges tied to national security. In China, this is getting almost no press. Now, we actually did something quite unprecedented at All Things Unexplained this past week. We debunked something this past week, CJ.
With the help of some friends.
With the help of some friends, and shout out to Bigfoot. I don't want to say their name wrong.
I'll find it. You keep talking.
Yeah, shout out to a Bigfoot podcast. They pointed us in the right direction. But this is what I'm saying. There's
Bigfoot Crossroads.
Yes, Bigfoot Crossroads. Thank you, CJ. Thank you, Bigfoot Crossroads. They pointed us in the right direction. Folks, there is a mad rush for UFO news right now. So much so that folks are putting out there anything they can get their hands on. If there's a UFO story out there, they want it and they want to be the first to get it, and they're going to get it out there.
I mean, us too.
Us too. But you know what? I do feel like that we might put a little digging into it, right? Here's what happened this past week. Clayton Morris, former Fox News anchor, who I like, he does a good job. But Clayton Morris with the debrief put out a video where he's interviewing Jon Stewart, not the comedian, but the politician from Illinois. And Clayton Morris said, we have an exclusive video from Jon Stewart. It's shocking. It shows a UFO or an alien interrogation by military officials. And it is shocking.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not an exclusive. Matter of fact, it was in a documentary in the 90s, and quite a good one. I liked it. Called Area 51, The Alien Interview. And I brought a little clip of it here that we can take a look at. But it only took me minutes to get to what the true origin of this alien interrogation video. But
again, with the help of some of our friends.
Well, but I'm counting that in there, right? Like I put it out there.
Right.
Like, what's up with this? I don't know what to make of this alien interrogation video that Clayton Morris is talking about. And with the help of some friends, they pointed me in a certain direction. And within minutes, I had located the entire video for myself from a 90s documentary, which, by the way, had Bob Lazar in it, Art Bell, all kinds of great people. Area 51, the alien interview. But Clayton Morris is putting it out there from the debrief like this is an exclusive. And by the way, I knew something was up. Talking about research. As soon as I tried to figure out how to contact Jon Stewart, because I wanted to talk to Jon Stewart, Illinois politician. Nah. I couldn't figure out how to contact him. I asked some people, how did you contact him for your news story on him? Heard nothing back. No phone number, no website, no email, no social media that I know of, nothing. How many politicians have nothing? If anything, they have too much. Too many ways to contact them. So, folks, you have to be careful what you're believing out there. You have to take all this UFO news with a grain of salt. And I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer, but there's such a mad rush for exclusives and for information. Folks are putting anything out there and portraying it in ways that maybe it shouldn't be portrayed. Now, with that being said, one thing about this video is it could still be real. It's true, it's not an exclusive to anybody in 2023, but in the 90s, when they showed it, that same documentary had reenactments, which they labeled as reenactments. They were clearly people in suits, and it was clearly fake. But that was not the case with this. I'm going to play just a little bit of it here for you. And it had a mysterious, shadowy figure named Victor, which was kind of interesting. All right, let me pull this up. This is from not Clayton Morris's exclusive on the debrief, but Area 51, the alien interview.
Story stands or falls on the credibility of the tape he supplied. Here, exclusively for the first time anywhere, is the uncut, uninterrupted alien interview tape, shown in its entirety in real time.
I want to interrupt here. This is from 1997, by the way. And this video is supposedly filmed sometime in the 90s. I'm going to turn... The video itself actually has no audio. They added this music in, obviously. And we're seeing what you can only describe as a classic gray.
Mm-hmm. Super big eyes.
Super big eyes. Very small mouth.
Mm-hmm. Small nose. Big cheekbones and
small nose.
skull.
And it appears to be in some sort of interrogation room. It's real dark. It's a VHS tape, by the way. We're not quite sure what they're recording on. There's speculation that the initials, D&I, you see that in the bottom left corner, stand for Department of Naval Intelligence. There is a shadowy figure in the video that people say is Colin Powell. And that he was there. At some point in the video, the extraterrestrial, the alien gray being, appears to go into some sort of physical distress. And by the way, it is claimed by Jon Stewart and others that this being was communicating telepathically. That they basically brought in some people with purported telepathic abilities, kind of like we saw on Independence Day, right? And that they were communicating with the NHI that way. I'm going to fast forward a little here because at this point here, the extraterrestrial appears to be having some sort of physical distress, and two doctors come in, mask on, surgical scrubs, latex gloves, and they appear to be attempting to clear its airway, mouth. It's pretty disturbing. The figure has a very tiny neck, by the way, very tiny neck. And one reason they point that out because they say this is not a person in a suit. Just because look how tiny the neck is. There's no way anybody could pull that off.
It's hard to see the body.
You removed the soundtrack from the tape.
It's hard to see the what?
The body.
It is. But I can tell you for those listening to this that it is kind of shocking.
Yeah, it's a shocking video for sure. It's hard to make anything of it. Of course, context is everything, right? If you're told it's one thing and you watch it, having heard that it's that one thing, you might think, oh, wow, okay, this is really an alien being interrogated. And then if you hear, no, it's from a document, I don't know. It's hard to know what to make of that one.
Right. Well, one thing Jon Stewart, the politician, said to Clayton Morris with Redacted is that he had submitted that video to Tim Burchett.
Oh.
And I tried to find out, right? That's one reason I wanted to contact Jon Stewart is to know, okay, did you submit that to Tim Burchett?
Mm-hmm.
I would love to hear from Tim Burchett.
Yeah. Oh,
Congressman
I
Tim
would
Burchett,
love to
representing
have
the 2nd
Tim
District,
Burchett on the
Tennessee.
show.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that would be great. Which, by the way, DJ from Calling All Beans and I from All Things Unexplained during the UFO hearing had this little thing going during the UFO hearing. I'm going to pull it up right now. The dadgummit shot. We made it up to 4, possibly 5 shots for dadgummits. But again, this is just, this is what I'm saying. I'm going to go back. This is post UFO hearing. Folks are really scrambling for stories. Merrick von Rennenkamp says there's 2 things happening here. Either we've got, let's see exactly, how did he put it? We've had a decades-long cover-up of UFO retrieval and reverse engineering activities, or a major PSYOP situation's happening. But I say it's a little more complicated than that. We don't know the motivations of all the factions involved here, CJ. And I'll give you a great example. Okay, China, they're gearing up. They could be ready to invade Taiwan next week, right? This, by the way, unfortunately would put us on the precipice of a potential World War III.
Yeah, that would
if that happened. And again, this has to be taken as a part of the UFO story, especially when we have headlines like from this past week, 2 U.S. sailors charged with treason, revealing some sort of information to China. Now, by the way, we can do a little extension here of this situation, going back to the other article. One of these 2 things is happening. Well, if we have been engaging in a decades-long cover-up of reverse engineering UFO technology, recovered alien beings, and HIs, if that's the case, what more top secret classified information could there possibly be to reveal to China than that?
Yeah.
What more important information could China, North Korea, others be trying to find out than that?
Not much.
So I think it's definitely part of the story. But also, okay, we have to be very careful with what we're hearing, what we're seeing, because we cannot make rushes to judgment when even folks like Clayton Morris, a well-regarded news person with Redacted, even he can put things out there too quickly, right? He put out an exclusive coverage of an alien interrogation. This was not the case. It only took a few minutes of research from All Things Unexplained, along with help from our friends, to uncover the actual origin of said video of the alien interrogation, the alien interview. But that just goes to show you, CJ, how much other stuff is floating around out there that's even more speculative than this.
And we have so much more that we need to uncover still.
Yes. And I'm not going to call anybody out, but there are podcasts out there happening right now. They have Twitter accounts.
We're coming for you, Bill Nye.
Well, it's not Bill.
I know.
But they're putting out very speculative exclusives. Okay.
Well, it's all the clickbait. Everybody just wants you to click.
No, you're right. And they're getting lots of attention. They're getting lots of followers. And I've been real proud of us here. We've not really engaged in any of that sort of stuff. But there are podcasts on Twitter right now. They're saying, okay, releasing 2 videos this afternoon, just waiting on the go ahead. These have never been seen before, exclusives. They release them. One video, you can't see anything. The other video, it has already been released on YouTube years before.
No, you're right. Everybody wants to be the one to break the news, and they're willing to do anything to do it. But truly, in today's modern world, It really is clicks and likes and views and what have you, and people are doing anything to get attention. Anything.
That's right. Well, so be careful out there, folks. To recap, we're 3 years old now.
Yeah. And speaking of doing anything to get attention, you can find us on Cameo and pay us $3 and we will give you a message.
You can even request Smitty.
Yeah.
That's right. Find us on Cameo. You can find all our links on linktree.com/ATU podcast. It takes a lot to make a podcast happen. You can also find us on Venmo, PayPal, Cameo, and we really appreciate all of you. We accomplished so much these past 2 weeks. We've climbed the Apple Podcast science charts, and it's just pretty mind-blowing to me how far we've come.
We've come so far. Not just in the show, but it's people too, truly.
That's right. And thanks to all our listeners. Thanks to our guests that have come on with us. Thanks to all the unexplained ones out there. Those of you that are interacting with us on social media, that email us, that comment on our videos. And another thing you can do to help us is click subscribe or click follow. It really helps out a lot more than you know. Also leave comments and hit the like buttons wherever you're at. That really helps out a lot. It helps make this show happen. It helps makes it possible. So thank you. Hit those follow buttons and subscribe buttons. And CJ, I said my piece on the UFO topic for this week. I'm going to give you the final thought and let you take us out of here.
Gosh, you sure did say it. My final thought, I am lost. Truly, every day I'm thinking about this subject in terms of what's happening behind the scenes, what we're seeing. Is it true? Who do we believe? Who do we trust? And we had that long conversation on the Calling All Beings podcast. We had very differing opinions on how much information we should be allowed to know. If we had enough information as citizens of this country, what would we do with it? Would it cause some kind of panic? Should we just trust the few people that have the knowledge to keep it safe? I don't know. I don't know the answers to that, but I do plan on continuing to forge ahead, keep researching, keep learning, and see what we can find out. And keep an open mind.
Well said. The skies are not classified. Good night, CJ.
Yes. Stay happy, stay strange, and listen to all things unexplained.
And we're out of here.
Thanks.
Like.
Share. Follow.
All things unexplained.
Swag and much more at linktree.com/ATU podcast. BigfootUFO.com.
So some of that I think, sir, we'll save for closed session.